just communication between humans. But now there is communication between humans and machines, and sometimes between machines. You know, some of you might not be able to understand, but the development of technology in form of IoT, right? Where the moment you leave from your office, right, your car will tell the geyser and the air conditioner at your home that you are coming to the home, and they'll switch on automatically without your intervention. And we live in such a world, right? I know it might be sounding fascinating. So when I teach fourth industrial revolution and law, so students are fascinated by the imagination which is possible right now. So the communication is not limited to humans, but it is humans machine and sometimes machine machine, right? Now, so what is this meat space in cyberspace? Now, very quickly, we all know that there are space around us. Now this space, when there is a physical interaction or there is a physical space, what do we call it? We call it technically meat space. We all are made up of flesh and blood, meat. I hope you are able to understand. Therefore, meat space. Cyberspace is like we are interacting with each other, right? Possibly, you might not be able to interact, but I would recommend, if you want to put anything in the chat box, please feel free to write. I will try and respond if you have any queries at all. Okay. Now, at the bottom of the screen, you're just able to look at the evolution of the term. How did the cyber term evolve? So, cyber term evolved from kubernetes. So it's a Greek word which means to steer or to navigate. Okay. Now, kubernetes gave devise the word Kubernetes, right? Steerman, or the one who navigates. Now, these Kubernetes were converted into English as cybernetics, which is broadly the study of communication and control system in living beings and machines. And from the cybernetics, the term cyber came. So, what is cyber? Of of relating to or involving computer or computer network. So cyber, whenever, the common parlance when we understand cyber is what? Something or other relating to computer. Now, usually you would have seen that cyber as a term is never used or rarely used independently. It's always used in consonance with something. Like here also what we are talking, cyber space. What we are talking, cyber law. What we can also talk about, cyber crime. We can talk about cyber security, but we do not talk about cyber as an independent term or independent concept. So it's more of used in form of a prefix. That's what I wanted to, communicate. So cyber as a term is usually more of used in form of a prefix, which is related to something. So it does not have an independent existence, but it usually is not used as an independent term, but it's usually used in form of a prefix like cyberspace, cybersecurity, cyber law, and so on, right? So I hope we have been able to understand what cyberspace means. So cyberspace means a virtual space. One final time, cyberspace is what? It is a virtual space where different individuals may interact with each other, where so cyberspace is what? It is a virtual space where different individuals may interact with each other using information technology devices, or one individual may interact with a machine, or one machine may interact with another machine. I hope we are able to understand the meaning of cyberspace. Now, very quickly, how did the evolution of cyberspace happen? Right? So I understand, we'll very briefly look at the history of internet. That is something which we'll do. But for us, we will be able to pick up and we will be able to realize that cyberspace does not limit to internet. It has existed prior to that. Because what we are saying, information technology system, which is global in nature, which facilitates communication between humans and machine, humans and humans, or machine and machine, right? So initially it was just humans to humans. There was no machine involved, like we talk about machines today, right? But yes, earlier it was just humans. So whether internet or computer in the 19th century or 20th century were the first time, the answer is yes. So how did it begin? So it began with telegraphs. Now, I don't want to go into detail, what should I say, detailed discussion about the evolution of telegraph. First, there was optical telegraph, then there was electricity-based telegraph, right? And over a period of time, telephone developed, then radio developed. Now, radio, what's happening is communication. So, radio developed, then radio developed, and then there is something which is called ENIAC. Now, just to give you an idea, ENIAC is the world's first programmable computer program. Oh, sorry, world's first programmable computer, right? So ENIAC was developed right at the end of World War II, right? And then I have not brought in 1969 where ARPANET began. So ARPANET is considered to be a precursor of internet, right? So the internet which we use, so internet is what is basically a network. Network means interconnections of different computers. What is a network? Network means interconnection of different computers. So initially there was interconnection of various telegraphs, then telephone, then radio, then we developed computers, and by 1980s, 1990s, we had personal computers. By early 2000, we had, laptops. Now, I don't know, smartwatch, you name it, right? So all this is generating what? Cyberspace, right? All that virtual space, which is global in nature, or which helps communicate two individuals or human and machine using information technology system is what is cyberspace for us. I hope we are able to understand. See, technical definition is not at all important. As a teacher, and most of my colleagues would agree with me, definition is something which is not important for you. The whole aspect or importance is your ability to understand a concept. If somebody speaks something to you, whether you are able to comprehend what does it mean, that is what is very, very important. So I hope I'm able to communicate what is relevant and important. Now, we have all talked about the technical aspects of cyberspace, but the next question is whether is there any legal definition of cyberspace? So you'll be surprised to know that the term cyberspace has not been defined in the Information Technology Act 2000. Now, very quickly, all of you would be aware that there is a law which we call the Information Technology Act 2000. Now, this Information Technology Act 2000 was enacted in the year 2000, and it was the Information Technology Bill which became the Information Technology Act 2000. And this Information Technology Act 2000 was broadly enacted with uh, purpose of promoting e-commerce, promoting e-commerce, e-governance, and regulating behavior in cyberspace by checking criminal activities. So, on a whole, regulating cyberspace in India, right? So, the law which regulates cyberspace in India is the Information Technology Act 2000. However, this act does not define the term cyberspace, but it defines something as computer resource. Now, you will be surprised to know that this computer resource is something which is very, 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 very similar or very, very close to defining cyberspace. So how computer resource has been defined under section 2(1)(k), section 2, subsection 1, clause K of the Information Technology Act defines computer resource, which means, now this is very interesting. The term which has been used is means. It is not include. Now, what is the relevance of this word means? So this means word means it's exhaustive. The definition is exhaustive. Exhaustive means nothing beyond this will be considered as computer resource. Nothing beyond computer, computer system, computer network, data, computer database, or software would be considered as computer resource. So computer resource means computer, computer system, network, data, computer database, and software. So whenever the term means is used, means the definition is exhaustive. Whenever the term include is used, it means the definition is inclusive and the meaning may go beyond what has been provided, right? I hope so this is basically the way you interpret the law. So this is interpretation of law. Some of us who are in first year, second year, it's a very good lesson for us to how should we interpret the law. Whether means has a different meaning, include has a different meaning. Yes, right. So that is something I just wanted to point out. Now from here we move to talk about whether there is any case law talking about cyberspace. So, there is no direct case law talking about cyberspace, but this was a very interesting judgment. MySpace versus Super Cassette Industry. So it is a 2000 December 2016 judgment, which was published in 2017. So in this case, basically there was a discussion regarding interpretation of the term any place. So this term any place, which has been used in Section 51 of the Copyrights Act. So Section 51 of the Copyrights Act broadly covers the infringement aspect of copyright. Okay, infringement. So there is a copyright, there is a right. If your right is breached, so we don't call it breaching of copyright, we call it infringement of copyright. Okay. So if the copyright right is infringed, then it is covered under civil liability is covered under Section 51. Now, the term any place, which has been used in Section 51, Clause A, Subclause 2 of the Copyright Act, right? When it was interpreted, it was held that any place would not only cover the physical places, but also it will cover the virtual spaces. Now, what are these virtual spaces? We meant, or at least the court meant, cyberspace, the Delhi High Court. So, which court gave this judgment? It was a division bench judgment, MySpace versus Super Cassette, which defined any place under Section 51, Clause A, Subclause 2, to mean or to cover not only physical places, but also it covers virtual spaces. So, what are these virtual places? We mean cyberspace. Now, I am being creative when I bring in to help you understand it comprehensively. I hope everyone is able to pick up with me, right? Everyone? I know you are not able to respond, but anyways, you can write in the chat box if you have any queries. Okay. So very quickly moving from here. So what we have talked till now, we have talked about cyberspace. Now we are entering computer and computer memory. Now, broadly in cyberspace, what did we talk? We talked about the definition of cyberspace and its evolution. So how did it evolve? It evolved from telegraph era. Telegraph, telephone, radio, computers, the internet, and so on. Right? What does it mean? It is nothing, but it's a virtual space. What kind of virtual space? Which is global in nature. How this virtual space is created? This virtual space is created through interconnection of information technology system. Now, why this interconnection of information technology system is created? This interconnection is created for the purpose of facilitation of communication between humans and machine, or machine and machine, or for the purpose of sharing of information and data. Whether there is any legal definition for cyberspace? No, there is no direct legal definition for cyberspace, but broadly, computer resource covers pretty much what cyberspace we understand, right? Is there any judgment? So we have just talked about MySpace judgment, which defines any place under Section 51 to mean not only the physical places, but also virtual spaces. What are these virtual spaces? These virtual spaces are cyberspace. I hope all of you have been able to pick up. The interpretation I might take Information Technology Act or Copyright Act, but the judgments I would be only referring those judgments which are relevant from the perspective of intellectual property rights. Right? Now let's quickly talk about computer memory. Now, very broadly, I don't think all of you might know more about computer than I know. Right? We talked about motherboard, right? Integrated circuit when I was referring to, right? So what is it? So this motherboard is one big integrated circuit in which there are smaller integrated circuits which we are able to see. What are these? These are integrated circuits, right? So when we were talking about integrated circuits, I referred earlier for the purpose of semiconductor integrated circuit layout design, right? For that purpose. Anyway, quickly coming back to computer. So what is computer? I don't need to tell you. Uh, However, we look at the legal definition. So all of you know more about computer than possibly I would know, and possibly I would have to learn from all of you what computer is. Possibly I can help you understand what legally computer means. Are there any judgments talking about definition of computer and so on? That's absolutely yes. But yes, the intricacies and the nuances, the keyboard, the mouse, the video monitor, and so on. So basically, input device, output device, and then the central processing unit. So you know it more than I do. So without wasting time, we are quickly moving on to talk about what is the legal definition of computer. So the big question is whether computer has been defined in the law. Yes, computer has been defined not only in the Information Technology Act, but it has also been defined in the Copyrights Act 1957. So Section 2 FFP clause of the Copyrights Act defines computer, where it says computer includes electronic or similar device having information processing capability, right? But a more comprehensive definition of computer has been provided under the Information Technology Act 2000. So what does this Information Technology Act 2000 talks about computer? Let's look at it in greater detail. So what I have done, I have broken down the whole definition of computer, and we'll try and understand it because cyberspace, can we understand cyberspace without computer? The answer is absolutely no. So we have to understand what is computer. And the definition as provided in the Copyright Act, it's not very comprehensive. We will be able to find the definition of copyright, how it fits in into the definition as provided in the Information Technology Act. So what is computer? Now, what did Copyright Act say? Any electronic or similar device, right? But the definition in Information Technology Act, any electronic, magnetic, optical, or other high-speed processing device, right? So what did it say? It's not limited to electronic. It includes electronic, right? So what? Any electronic, magnetic, optical, or other high-speed data processing device or system. So what is computer? So a computer can be an electronic device, it can be a magnetic device, it can be an optical device, or it can be a high-speed data processing device, right? You have to understand. So, how we read any definition, that is also very important. So either it can be electronic, magnetic, optical, or high-speed data processing, or it can be a combination of them as well. Okay, it can be a combination of them as well. However, having just these capability is not sufficient. It has to perform some function. So what is that function that computers perform? So computer perform logical operation, arithmetic operation. So what is basically that? That is data processing, right? Logical operation or arithmetic operation. What is that? That is data processing and memory function. Now, this is something which is very important, right? Not only data processing activity, but after whatever data processing activity you have done, you also have to store, right? Store that. So that memory. And this memory function becomes very, very relevant for us from the perspective of intellectual property. We'll try and understand that, right? So what is a computer? It's either an electronic device, magnetic device, optical device, or a high data processing device, or a combination of them, which performs what kind of functions? It performs data processing function and memory function, right? How does it performs these function? It performs these function by manipulation of electronic, magnetic, or optical impulses. Now, if there is an electronic device, then manipulate electronic impulse, magnetic device, magnetic impulse, optical device, optical impulse, right? So these impulses are being manipulated for what purpose? For data processing and memory function, right? I hope we are able to understand. Is somebody trying to ask something? Okay, okay, right. Just 1 second. Uh, Right. Now, what does computer includes? Now, we have already understood the meaning of means. So the moment means term is used, it means it's an exhaustive definition. Nothing beyond this will be included. Whereas includes, the term include means all these are इंक्लूसिव और इलस्ट्रेटिव, इंक्लूसिव और इलस्ट्रेटिव। सो मीन्स इसके बियॉन्ड कुछ भी नहीं है। मतलब कोई इस डेफिनेशन जो इंक्लूड मीन्स में दिया गया है, इसके बियॉन्ड हम कुछ भी नहीं मानेंगे। और इंक्लूड में दिया गया है कि हमें एग्जाम्पल दिए गए हैं कि कंप्यूटर क्या क्या इंक्लूड करता है, बट ये पूरी तरीके से ये नहीं बताता है कि यही कंप्यूटर है। और मीन्स का मतलब ही पूरी तरीके से ये बताता है कि यही कंप्यूटर है, इसके अलावा कुछ भी और होगा तो उसे हम कंप्यूटर नहीं मानेंगे। राइट, दैट्स द डिफरेंस बिटवीन मीन्स एंड इंक्लूड्स। ओके, सो कंप्यूटर मीन्स electronic magnetic optical device which performs what kind of function? Data processing function and memory function. How does it perform that function? By manipulating impulses. Depending on what kind of device or system it is, it manipulates impulses. What does it include? It includes input, output, processing, storage, computer software, and communication facilities, which are connected or related to the computer in a computer system or computer network. So there is an input device, output device, processing device, storage device. There might be computer software, there might be communication facilities which are connected or related to the computer. So input device are connected, output device are connected, processing are within, computer softwares obviously related, communication facilities again, it may be connected or related to the computer or the computer system or computer network, right? So all these together will be considered as computer. So I hope we are able to see all of this. I hope all of you are able to understand the definition of computer now, right? So go back and check. And another thing, as a teacher, I am telling you that never believe what is being taught here. Always go back and read it yourself. Because when you read it, जब आप खुद से जाके उसको पढ़ेंगे, तो जो आपको जितना बढ़िया समझ में आएगा ना, वो उससे बेहतर कुछ नहीं होगा। ठीक है, तो जो भी मैं आज आपको बता रहा हूं, जो जो पॉइंट मैं आपको बता रहा हूं, जो जो प्रोविजन मैं आपको बता रहा हूं, बस उसको नोट डाउन करते चले कि हमें सेशन खत्म होने के बाद कॉपीराइट एक्ट में सेक्शन 2 FFB देखना है, इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट में सेक्शन 21I देखना है, क्या डेफिनेशन था, सर ने जो पढ़ाया वही है कि नहीं, उससे मैं क्या समझ पा रहा हूं। तो हमें थोड़ी मेहनत तो खुद भी करनी पड़ेगी। अगर आप समझे कि मैंने खिचड़ी बना दी है और मैं वो आपको परोस दूंगा और उससे काम बन जाएगा, तो ऐसा होगा नहीं। हमें अपनी मेहनत भी खुद से करनी पड़ेगी। ठीक है, now there are couple of case laws regarding what is a computer and what is not a computer. There are two judgments. So there is a Diebold system versus the Commissioner of Commercial Taxes, a case of 2005, and there is Saeed Asifuddin versus State of Andhra Pradesh. नाउ दोनों डिफरेंट केसेस हैं। डाइबोल्ट सिस्टम्स में टैक्स से रिलेटेड केस है, ये डिटरमाइन करने के लिए कि एटीएम, सो डाइबोल्ट सिस्टम इज अ केस व्हिच इज रिलेटेड टू एटीएम मशीन्स, whether ATM machines are computer or not from the perspective of taxing the transaction. And in Said Asufuddin, the whole issue is manipulation of the computer or manipulation of the mobile phones. Whether it amounts, whether that mobile phone or a cell phone is a computer or not. Because if it's a computer, then it becomes an offense under section 65, manipulation of phone. It becomes an offense under section 65. And if it is not a computer, then it is not an offense. So broad idea here, Diebold system, it was relating to taxes. And in Said Asafuddin, it was relating to an offense. So in Diebold system, it was held that ATM machine is not a computer, but it is merely an electronic device which is connected to a computer for the performance of specific task. So what it basically means, थोड़ा टेक्निकल टर्म में है, एटीएम कंप्यूटर नहीं है, वो क्या है, एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिवाइस है, एक टर्मिनल है। टर्मिनल इन व्हाट सेंस, सिंपलिस्टिकली एक वो आपका स्क्रीन है और एक कैश डिस्पेंसर है, जहां पे प्रोसेसिंग कुछ नहीं होता, डेटा प्रोसेस नहीं होता। क्योंकि हमने पिछली स्लाइड में क्या देखा कि कंप्यूटर होने के लिए अपने को क्या करना है, ठीक है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मैग्नेटिक ऑप्टिकल डिवाइस तो होना ही होना है, बट इन एडिशन टू दैट आपको और क्या जरूरत है, आपको डेटा प्रोसेसिंग फंक्शन होना चाहिए, आपको मेमोरी फंक्शन होना चाहिए। ठीक है, तो एटीएम क्या है, डेटा प्रोसेसिंग फंक्शन नहीं प्रोवाइड करता और मेमोरी फंक्शन नहीं प्रोवाइड करता, और क्योंकि वो फंक्शन नहीं कवर करता तो वो कंप्यूटर नहीं है। बट एटीएम क्या है, वो सिर्फ एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिवाइस है जो इंफॉर्मेशन एक जगह से दूसरी जगह कम्युनिकेट करने में हेल्प करता है। जैसे आप इनपुट डालते हो, ठीक है, सो दैट गोज टू अ कंप्यूटर, दैट कंप्यूटर विल प्रोसेस and then accordingly instruct ATM to either tell you about your balance or tell the ATM to give you 2000 rupees as per your request. So ATM is not a computer, but it is just an electronic device, and therefore it was taxable under the as in this case. Okay, inside a Sufidin case, the software which is there in the mobile phone was hacked, or what I should say, yes, it was sort of hacked, and it was manipulated and changed. Now, if the software of the mobile phone is hacked or manipulated, then it amounts to an offense under Section 65 of the Information Technology Act if a cell phone or a mobile phone is considered to be a computer. So it was finally decided that a cell phone is computer under the Information Technology Act, and therefore manipulation of software of the mobile phone or cell phone by anybody would amount to a criminal offense under Section 65 of the Information Technology Act. However, I should also caution you, ये मैंने आपको बहुत ही सिंपल टर्म में समझा दिया, केस थोड़ा सा ज्यादा टेक्निकल है, because there, as per every mobile phone manufacturer is mandated to provide a specific set of information in mobile phone in form of software. And ये जो requirement है mandatory, ये mandatory requirement को manipulate करने पे वो 60 section 65 of Information Technology Act में offense होगा, otherwise नहीं होगा। ठीक है, तो ये दो केस लॉज हैं जिसमें हमने कंप्यूटर सिस्टम के बारे में देखा, और हमें ये पता चला कि एटीएम कंप्यूटर नहीं है, और जो मोबाइल फोन हमारा जो हम मोबाइल फोन, या तो मोबाइल फोन के थ्रू हम ये वीडियो देख रहे हैं, या जो मोबाइल फोन हमारे हाथ में है, तो उसको भी इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट के अंदर एक कंप्यूटर के तौर पे देखा जाएगा, राइट? नाउ वेरी क्विकली वी विल ऑल्सो टॉक अबाउट मेमोरी, computer memory. Now this is something which is very very important, because जब हम when we try and talk about intellectual property rights, so intellectual property rights or intellectual property is an exclusive asset of the author or an exclusive asset of the inventor, right? So author for copyright, inventor for patents, right? Nobody else should be able to use such asset, intangible asset. However, what happens if such an asset is stored in the memory of the computer? Would it amount to infringement? Specifically when we talk about copyright, okay? Because Section 13 of the Copyrights Act provides for, now I would encourage all of you to refer these sections parallelly when I'm referring. So Section 13 provides for copyright in different work. So which work will have copyright, which work will not have copyright has been provided under Section 13. Section 14 tells us that if there is copyright, then along with copyright, what rights the author is eligible. All those rights are available in Section 14. So Section 14 tells that the exclusive right to communicate your work to anyone is with the author. However, if such a copyrighted work, say for that matter, a movie, right? Now, I don't need to tell anyone that how deeply piracy is there in India, right? How many of us would still have pirated movies and pirated songs on our mobile phones and computers, right? Now, storing of that pirated movie or pirated music, does it amount to copyright infringement or not? The answer is absolute yes, right? Because you are not authorized. Exclusive right किसका है? क्या आपने license fee pay किया है? The whole idea is when you rent or when you purchase a movie online, you pay some amount of money. What is that? You are giving a license fee, right? You don't become the copyright owner of that. You pay a license fee. for using it, for watching that movie online, right? So keeping that aside, if unauthorizedly or pirated movie you are keeping on your device, whether it amounts to copyright infringement, the answer is yes, right? But then there are different types of memories. There are certain memories which are volatile memories, right? Like register and catch memory, random access memory. But whereas there are certain types of memory which are non-volatile memory, like read-only memory, hard disk drive, SDD, or optical drive, and so on, right? So register and catch memory. So let's try and understand. You are not able to, is everyone able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're also able to hear me. Correct. Thank you. So broadly, register and cache is the personal memory of the CPU, right? So, when central processing unit wants to process any information, then in order to process that information, it needs to keep some amount of data or information. And where does it keep that amount of data? So it keeps in form of cache. So this is CPU, right? Basically, CPU means processor. What it is a processor. So it is that body which is processing information. Now this processor have its own local memory with itself, which it calls cache, right? Now, is there any smaller unit of cache? Yes, the smallest unit of memory is called register. So register, cache, right? So the smallest unit of memory is register and then cache. So this register and cache is, in fact, those of you who are about to go to purchase a new computer or who have recently purchased a new computer, so you would have read in the specifications, or if even if you have purchased earlier, you can go back and check, the cache and the RAM, right? And the hard disk drive. So how much is it? So you will be able to see. So cache is also provided. What is the cache available? Because the higher, larger the cache, the faster the processing speed. Because locally, large amount of data processor will be able to store, right? Now this cache and register is the local memory of the CPU. Now it is a volatile memory. Basically, what does volatile memory means? That if the computer shuts down, then whatever information is stored in register and cache will vanish, right? Will vanish in the sense will be automatically deleted. Similarly, there is something which we call as RAM. So RAM is what? Random access memory. Now, random access memory. So broadly, what happens? This is your computer. Just a second. Let me, yeah. So this is your processor. Okay. And broadly, this is your hard disk memory, secondary storage.
तो ये लोग
Right.
कितना झूठ रहे होंगे
Right? So in this, what happens? Can the data from this secondary storage or hard disk drive directly reach to CPU? The answer is no. So how this data goes to, this data is first of all stored in RAM, okay? And then from RAM, as and when data is requested, CPU receives this information. So that's why this is primary storage, this is secondary storage. So what does primary means? Such storage with which CPU is directly able to interact is primary, and such storage with which it is indirectly able to connect is secondary storage. So the big hard disk drive, so usually what happens? The cache would be in MB, the RAM would be in GB, say for that matter, it's usually nowadays it comes for 8 to 16 GB, depending on, right? So all this thing, and usually your hard disk drive nowadays is not for anything less than 256 GB. I hope everyone would be using these, so they would know it already, right? So we have CPU. The local cache is your volatile, your RAM is volatile, but rest every other type of memory is your non-volatile, right? Non-volatile means if you switch it off, it does not automatically delete. So this automatically deletes, but rest don't automatically deletes. Now, the whole idea is if something, you can't store any information in read-only memory. So read-only memory does not provide you any storage capability. It just provides for BIOS. It stores BIOS. So it is in KBs, 8 to 16 KBs. Little technical about computer, so forget about it. Plain and simple, computer memory is two types. Volatile memory, non-volatile memory. If you hold copyrighted material in non-volatile memory, would it amount to infringement of copyright? Or if you put in copyright material in non-volatile memory, whether it amount to infringement? So the answer is, if it is in non-volatile, then it would amount to infringement. If it's volatile, then it will be protected in form of fair use. So do we have a case law on the same? The answer is yes. The case law is MySpace Super Cassettes, the earlier judgment we had referred. So in this case also, if any information is stored transiently, means temporarily, or incidental, just for the purpose of whenever there is any storage which is transient and incidental, then it will be considered as fair use under section 52. So section 51 of the Copyright Act, what does it talk about? It talk about infringement of copyright, whereas section 52 talks about fair use. So what are those different scenarios if you use the copyrighted material without the consent of the author? Then there would not be any copyright infringement. So if you store data or information usually in so if you store data or information in volatile storage, then there will be fair use because it is transient and incidental. Whereas if you store data or information which is copyrighted in non-volatile, then it would amount to copyright infringement. I hope we are able to keep up and keep track of all this information. Now, with this, what we have done, we have spoken about computer and computer memory. So we have talked about what is computer, where we found ATM is not a computer, it is just an electronic device. But we found out that mobile phones are computers. Then we looked at memory, computer memory. We found out broadly there are two types of computer memories. One is volatile memory, one is non-volatile memory. Now, if we store copyrighted material in non-volatile memory, then it would not amount to copyright infringement because it will be protected under fair use. But if we store copyrighted material in non-volatile memory, then it would amount to infringement, right? Copyright infringement under section 51 of the copyright, right? Everyone with me? Now, very quickly, we will move forward to talk about the internet, World Wide Web, and domain name. Now, before we move forward, anyone having any query?
Sir, I have a query.
Yes,
Sir, I just want to ask you that there is intellectual property law and also we are having IT Act of 2021. So,
correct.
there is artificial intelligence. I am not talking
Yes.
present scenario. Let us talk about future. We know that
Mm-hmm.
AI is so powerful that it can also manipulate anyone's private data. So,
Mm-hmm.
as today module, we are talking about cyberspace. We are also having the innovations in cyberspace field in the domain of cyberspace. So, I just want to know that if AI is so much, it is having the power to manipulate or catch anyone's private data, then in future, how will this, your private data, the cyberspace will cope up with the IP law and IT Act in presence of artificial intelligence? So, we will rely on IT Act or IP law. Or I just want to know how will IP law will govern and regulate the scenario in the case of AI? Because the live example is Sora AI, as you have seen what recently happened with the celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to know that how it will cope up with in the presence of artificial intelligence.
Now, broadly, there are two things when, it's a very interesting question. However, I still feel it's little half cooked, but no problem. We'll try and respond it. The first things first, when we talk about intellectual property is not personal data, right? It does not cover personal data. The moment you talk about personal data, now we have the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, which will be covering personal data. When we talk about intellectual property, we talk about it. So intellectual property is more, as we have understood, something which can be commercially exploited. So intellectual property is not personal data, but it's a sort of a commercial data or information, or rather we should say it's a commercial asset. It's not even information and data, but it is an asset. Just like, there will be an electronic device which you're using in form of computer, or for that matter, your mobile phone for attending this session. So you own that mobile phone or computer. Similarly, intellectual property is an asset which you which you own. Now, the question which you have asked regarding artificial intelligence. Now, first of all, you have to understand that that the question which you have asked regarding artificial intelligence and use of artificial intelligence. For example, the deep fake. Basically, I believe you're referring to deep fake, like what happened to Mr. Miss Mandana, and then various foreign celebrities, cricketers like Virat Kohli and all that. So their photographs were used for the purpose of manipulating using deep fake. Correct? This is the question you were asking, correct?
Yes, sir.
So as of today, as we stand today, we don't have a response to this problem because we really don't know that how to deal with this scenario. The reason being, you have a knife at home, correct? Now, the same knife your mother can use, or for that matter, a knife at your home could be used by anybody constructively for cutting vegetables, right? To make dishes at home. But then the same knife can also be used for murdering someone, correct? So at this point of time, possibly it's overhyped when we say that a artificial intelligence is so dangerous. See, at this point of time, artificial intelligence is not that dangerous. It's just it is being hyped up, right? Because of how it is being used. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is just a tool. What it is just a tool, just like a knife. There is a knife. Similarly, there is a artificial intelligence. What it is a tool. It can be used for good things. At the same time, it can also be used for bad things. I hope you are able to understand. Now, all the good things which we use artificial intelligence for, nobody is talking about it. But how this artificial intelligence is being used in form of deep fake for the purpose of creating fake videos, fake photographs, right? All those things certainly is a challenge. Now, all these fake videos and fake photographs which are being created, broadly, I don't think anybody is claiming any copyright over these photographs which have been fakely created, right? But even if it is, it would really be very complicated from the perspective who would actually own the copyright. Because these photographs, so we are talking about these photographs which are bad photographs, but at the same time, those of you who are fans of Amitabh Bachchan would have referred to Mr. Bachchan's Twitter account, and he very recently put a few days back, he put AI generated photograph, of Ram Lalla and himself and other things on his platform, which was positive. He put himself, you have to understand, right? So who owns the copyright over such photographs? So broadly, it's a debatable issue. But however, for the time being, if such photographs are broadly being developed using Chat GPT, right? Chat GPT 4.0. So broadly 3.0 and 3.5, and I believe everyone is using Chat GPT, right? So Chat GPT 4.0 enables you to develop such images, and it has very clear that whatever information you get while using chat gpt, the copyright over such information will be given to the prompter. So whosoever is prompting chat gpt and asking for a specific question or specific content, then it is the person who is requesting that information will be considered to be the author of that content. So AI is not a legal person as of now. However, the question which you raise, because artificial intelligence, we will refer, if not today, we will certainly refer it on 22nd. You have to understand artificial intelligence can be broadly categorized into three stages. Now, please look at the screen. So the present stage is narrow artificial intelligence. Okay. Now, what does this narrow artificial intelligence means? It means intelligence which is lower than human beings. Then there is something what is called general artificial intelligence. Now, what is this general artificial intelligence? It means intelligence which is at par with human beings. And then finally, there is something which is called super artificial intelligence. What does that mean? An intelligence which is superior to human intelligence. So at this point of time, we are at the level of narrow artificial intelligence. But Whether over a period of time we'll move to general artificial intelligence and super artificial intelligence, we really can't say it right now. Whether it's possible, anything is possible, right? So once we reach that stage of general artificial intelligence and super artificial intelligence, possibly the present laws would not be sufficient to regulate them, right? And we will have to develop laws based on the scenarios at those point of time, and our requirement, we will have to draft such laws. So I did not respond to your query directly, but I tried, because
Yes, sir.
it cannot be responded directly. I tried to explain you through, how the scenario might change, right? So there is no confusion regarding all these images which are AI generated at present. The copyright, if it exists with the person who's prompting it. I would recommend everyone to go to ChatGPT, OpenAI, and read its user guidelines and other user term agreements. It is very categorical, where it clearly provides that whatever content is being generated by chat gpt upon the prompt of an individual, means अगर आप कुछ भी chat gpt पे जाके लिखते हैं और उससे chat gpt कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन आपको प्रोवाइड करता है, तो किसके पास उस कंटेंट का कॉपीराइट होगा? उस कंटेंट का कॉपीराइट उस व्यक्ति के पास होगा जो वो क्वेश्चन या कमेंट चैट जीपीटी को रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा है इंफॉर्मेशन। ठीक है? सो विद दिस किसी का कोई और सवाल? अगर किसी का कोई और सवाल हो तो वो भी
Yes, sir.
पूछ सकते हैं। यस यस
Hello, sir.
विक्रम जी।
So my question is also on the AI.
यस
Sir, as you know, the chat GPT provides information in a quick and efficient manner.
करेक्ट।
So as you know, the chat GPT is also neural networks. So my question is, how neural networks change our
विक्रम शायद आप सवाल अपना पूरा नहीं कर पाए और आप डिस्कनेक्ट भी हो गए। कोई बात नहीं विक्रम, आप जब भी लौटे प्लीज राइट योर क्वेश्चन इन द चैट बॉट। आई आई वुड एब्सोल्युटली ट्राई एंड रिस्पॉन्ड टू योर क्वेरी, right? That is no problem. I know AI is a very interesting topic and everybody wants to discuss it, but anyways, we also have to focus on our aspect. So very quickly, talking about Internet World Wide Web. Now everyone knows the Industrial Revolution, right? The first Industrial Revolution which started with steam engines, fossil fuels, right? Second Industrial Revolution was an outcome of the electricity. The third Industrial Revolution, whose backbone was the internet, which is broadly the digital revolution. And then the fourth industrial revolution, we are part of the fourth industrial revolution, and it is a technological revolution. So at the beginning, when we were discussing about cyberspace, I referred so many technologies: artificial intelligence, big data analytics, cloud computing, and so many 3D printing and so on. So this fourth industrial revolution is all about all these new technologies, right? So third industrial revolution gave birth to something which has become so intricately close to our part of our lives, is the internet, right? And we always call it the internet, not just internet, because there is just one and only one internet in this whole world, right? So very quickly, we'll also look at the legal definition of the computer network. It's not very relevant at this point of time, but I would recommend all of you to go and check section 2(1) J of the Information Technology Act for the purpose of definition of computer network, because I want to rush through, because most of you are interested to talk about AI. So why not? Let's talk about AI. But before that, there are certain other aspects which we need to cover. So we'll just quickly try and touch upon them. And from there, we'll move on. So what is this internet? So this internet is nothing, but it is interconnection. What it is? It is interconnection of several computer devices, or lakhs and crores and billions and trillions of computer devices, which are connected through a network. Therefore, we were looking at the definition of computer network, right? So what is a network? It is an interconnection of thousands, lakhs, crores, billions and trillions of computer devices all across the world. ठीक है? पूरी दुनिया में जितने भी सिस्टम हैं, उन सब सिस्टम का इंटरकनेक्शन जो फैसिलिटेट करता है, the internet वो है, ठीक है? Now the internet is something which we simplistically also call as network of networks. So how did it so how did it actually begin? So broadly, somewhere around early 1960s, the United States Department of Defense, they started an agency which they called as Advanced Research Project Agencies. Okay. Now this is Advanced Research Project Agency was broadly because it was peak of Cold War. Second World War ended from 1939 to 1945, and from 1945 to almost 1990, it was 45 years of Cold War. During Cold War, the US and USSR, USA and the USSR, the USSR, which was broken down in 1989, 90, right? They were in constant you know, they were constantly developing their technologies to be ready for possibly Third World War, right? So there were a lot of efforts which were being done in form of, you know, uh, outer space exploration and so on, in order to develop their missile system, nuclear weapons, and so on, right? So this advanced research project agency, which was started in the United States in early 1990s, it developed a network of computers. Now, this network of computer was very important because prior to computer or prior to this network of computer, the network which existed was broadly your telephone system, right? So we talked about telegraph, telephone, radio. Now, radio was not very efficient for long range communication. Now, all of you would be aware the United States is the third largest country in the world, right? So from that perspective, you have to understand that it's such a huge country, and if there is a world war, then there has to be, a network where, army can communicate with each other for the purpose of coordination among themselves, right? So how they could communicate? They could communicate only through telephone. So they wanted to replace these telephone systems because during war, if this telephone system comes down or breaks down, how the message could be transmitted from east coast to the west coast, which was very difficult. It's a huge country. So they started developing on something which we call as ARPANET, right? Advanced Research Project Agency Net, right? ARPANET. Now this ARPANET for the first time was used in 1969, December of 1969, when I hope everyone is able to see the screen. So December 1969, there were four universities of United States of America which were connected with each other, and there was communication or information sent from one computer to another computer, right? December of 1969. Over a period of time till September 1972, this ARPANET slowly started expanding. Now, by 1983, or I should say by 1998, there were around 60,000 computers which were connected to the internet. Now, this is something which is very, very important for us to understand that at one point of time, I'm saying ARPANET, and then at other point of time, I'm saying internet. What is this? Whether it's ARPANET or internet. So the world's first network, not global network, please be with me. The world's first network was ARPANET, right, which was established in December 1969. Slowly, this ARPANET started expanding, covering various academic institutions in United States of America. And by 1983, the Department of Defense realized that this ARPANET cannot be used for communication for the purpose of armed forces. Therefore, it separated itself from ARPANET and started their own network for the communication of armed forces in United States of America. And then finally, by 1989, it was decided that this ARPANET should be replaced by something which we today call as the internet. Okay. So the internet as a term is not a new term. It was coined way back in 1972. 1972, where it comes from the term internetwork. Internetwork, and you combine together, it became internet. So inter plus network, it gave us the term internet. Now, what is this internet? as we stand today, as we understand today, it is a global network. So, which was the first network in the world? ARPANET. Which was the first global network in the world? ARPANET. Which is the global network in the world which exists today? We call it the internet. So, ARPANET started in 1969 and it died in 1989. Right? So, ARPANET began in 1969 and it ended by 1989. Whereas internet started developing from 1972 to 1974, where this internet expanded beyond United States of America and it covered other countries in Europe as well. So what is this internet? So internet is just an interconnection of computer nodes globally, right? What is this internet? Internet is interconnection of computer nodes globally. Now, if internet is an interconnection of computer nodes globally, then what is World Wide Web? Is there any difference between internet and the World Wide Web, or they are the same? Anyone? Any idea? Okay. So I think since you're not permitted to speak, no problem. So very quickly, what is the internet? So internet is nothing, but internet provides you a network for purpose of communication. Right? What does internet provides you? Internet provides you merely a network for the purpose of communication. Now the problem is that suppose there are multiple individuals. Now Dr. Shweta has certain information, okay, and I want that information. So what I will do on internet, I will request, send an information or message to Dr. Shweta over internet, and I'll request Dr. Shweta that please send me details of this conference. Now, it's not necessary that Dr. Shweta is available on her computer 24/7. Then what she will do? Maybe tomorrow she is on holiday. So what she does, she comes day after and she checks her computer and she realizes that on the internet, I have requested Dr. Shweta for information regarding the certificate program. So immediately what she does, she attaches the brochure and send it to me over the internet. Okay. Now the point is that I did not check the email immediately, right? Or the information which was communicated to me by Dr. Shweta immediately. I was busy, so I could not check my computer. So what happened? There is a delay in receipt of information, and this was something which was very frustrating for Tim Bresner-Lee. So Tim Bresner-Lee was an employee at CERN, where the scientists could exchange information with each other, but then they would exchange information what I just explained you. And it brought in lot of inefficiency. So what Tim Bresner-Lee thought, rather than connecting with other scientists and requesting for information, how about if every scientist, whatever information they have, they put it on, they put it on a web page, right? So if I want to get to know about the certificate program, I will go to the university website and I will click on the certificate program, and I can download the brochure from the web page of the university, right? So rather than individually requesting, what happened, Tim Berners-Lee designed something in form of a world wide web of web pages. So what is internet? Internet is just the network. It does not provide you anything. It is just the network which interconnects different computer or computer systems. Whereas World Wide Web is a world, or worldwide or across the world web of web pages or interconnected web pages. Now, what are these web pages? These web pages are nothing but they are repositories of information. Now, the big question is, how do I make these web pages? So Tim Berners-Lee, what he did, he devised or he invented a language which he called hypertext markup language. And this language could be used for designing your web page. Then how do I search this web page on the internet? So he said every web page will have its address. What that address will be called? It will be called Uniform Resource Identifier, which we today called Uniform Resource Locator, right? So what should be the process of me searching for this URL? So he also devised a protocol, which he said hypertext transfer protocol. So you use this protocol for the requesting of a specific web page, which have been made using hypertext markup language. So what this was the original paper. What you're able to see on the screen, this was the original paper where Tim Bresner-Lee proposed the World Wide Web to his boss, Michael Sandel. So the top left corner, you will be able to see the name. Michael Sandel was the boss of Tim Bresner-Lee. In March of 1989, Tim Bresner-Lee, who was an employee of CERN, proposed this model of web to Michael Sandel. Now, this is the evolution which happened, by the end of 1990, the first web page was made. By April 1993, the World Wide Web was made available to use by public without any charges. Now, this is what you are able to see is the first web page which was developed, right? So this is a screenshot of recreated page of first website which was developed by CERN. Obviously, Tim Bresner-Lee as an employee developed this web page. So, all of us are able to see how pages have changed. So this is basically the difference. What is internet? Internet is just interconnection, which is there. Whereas when we talk about World Wide Web, so it is not an interconnection, but it is basically a web of web pages which can be accessed using the internet, right? I hope all of you were able to appreciate it. In the end, if there is any query, please feel free to ask. Now, domain name system. So the broad idea is there are different web pages or different resources which are there on the World Wide Web. Now, how do I access it? So there, like you have an address, I have an address. Similarly, every website has an address. So this system of web address or IP address for website is what we call as domain name system. Now, why this domain name system was required? Now, like mobile numbers, every website had an IP address, which is something more in name of number. Now, just to give you a simple example, whether it's easier to remember names or it's easier to remember numbers. So you would be able to realize, suppose our names, all our names were numbers, then would it be possible to remember the number or remember the name? It's easier to connect with names rather than numbers. So the various websites or web pages which were there on World Wide Web had an address which is called IP address, which is something like 3.7.82.249, right? So how these IP address are arranged or developed, we are not going into that technicality. We are just, understanding. So these IP address were maintained in form of phone book in the internet. Okay. So this phone book is basically is what domain name system. Now, this phone book might might be changing frequently because suppose the web page of my university, I am a PhD scholar in National Law School Bangalore. So the web page of my university has an IP address at present is 3.7.82.249. Suppose at a later point of time, the IP address is changed to 66.235.200.113. So the phone book which we have will be required to be changed for obvious reason. So if my mobile number changed, I inform you my mobile number has changed, and then you change my mobile number, correct? Now, is it easier to remember mobile number of your friends or search the name of your friends on your mobile phone? For obvious reasons, the names. So similarly, this domain name system which developed, which help management of various resources which are available on World Wide Web more efficient. Now, this domain name system was broadly introduced by Paul V. Moka-Petris from Information Sciences Institute of University of South California. So it's just a factual information that domain name system, which was initially used for ARPANET, was developed in 1983 by Mr. Paul. Now, there are various hierarchies of domain name system. We would not go into that. What we will broadly try and pick up is broadly what is domain name system, right? So we'll try and understand it. What we are able to see here, we have broken down. So what is this whole? Please try and understand. This is what is uniform resource locator. When we were talking about World Wide Web, we just talked about the address. So the full address is what? Uniform resource locator. So any resource on the World Wide Web or on the internet can be, identified through uniform resource locator. Okay. Now, this complete is the uniform resource locator. So how does this URL begin with? It begins with the protocol. Now, protocol simplistically as a term means protocol is a set of rules. So what is protocol? Protocol is set of rules. So what is this hyper transfer, HTTPS, hyper transfer, text protocol. So this HTTPS which is there, it is basically for the purpose of how do you request any information on World Wide Web, right? So what is this? HTTPS. So it is a protocol which is used for seeking any information on World Wide Web, right? Now, the next part is www, which is World Wide Web. This is also called subdomain. This is also
Hello,
called,
sir.
yes, yes.
So, what does S represent in HTTPS?
S represents secure.
And so, what is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS?
Yes, very good. So HTTP, text transfer protocol. So broadly, HTTP and HTTPS, the difference is that if it's just HTTP, then just a second, let me show it on the second slide. You will be able to understand. 1 minute. Thank you so much for the query. It's a very good query because those of us who are from non-technical background might not understand. So broadly, how does DNS works? Let's first understand that, and then we'll go back to talking about it. So what we are able to see is, you know, this is your computer, right? On the left, you are able to see a computer. Now this computer has a web browser. So what is web browser? Web browser is a software which help you access web pages. Now, do we enter the IP address? The answer is no. How do we search? We write www.google.com. Correct? We don't write the IP address. But then the DNS does not work that way, or the World Wide Web does not work that way. It does not understand what is, what is the address of a particular website, say for that matter, www.google.com. So what happens? Your web browser, first of all, sends this web page, whatever you have requested, to DNS server. Now, this DNS server, what it does, it finds out the IP address of this, URL. For this URL, what is the IP address? So this DNS server will search for this IP address and it will send this IP address to your web browser. Okay. Now, once this IP address is sent to your web browser, then it will request this IP address in the internet. So IP address is, so suppose if you want to send a, mail or post to my home, what you'll do, you'll write my address and send me, right? And that message will reach my home. Now, whatever the message you have sent, I would give a response to that. So I would give a response to that. That's what is happening. So once I receive the IP address, so basically what I am doing, I am requesting a specific computer resource which is stored at the IP address 198.61.190.243. Now this will go to server or World Wide Web. Wherever this address will be, it will go to that place and it will request for that web page. Now, this communication you are able to see here, it's written HTTP response. Now, if this is HTTPS, so what is going to happen? The request which you will send for this address will be encrypted. One more time. So if you, encryption you understand? Encryption, decryption, cryptography, the science of encryption and decryption. So what is encryption means? There you will be using some encryption technique for encrypting the information so that any person cannot read the message which you are communicating. So when we talk about this HTTPS request, so if this is an HTTP, then it will go as a plain text. So if there is a hacker, the hacker will be able to read what message is being sent from your web browser to the server. But if it is HTTPS, then the request which you are sending, it will be broadly encrypted, and therefore a hacker would not be able to read unless the hacker has a key. So this request for this website will be encrypted. It will be random number. It will reach the server. It will be decrypted. Whatever that web page is, it will be responded back. So that's the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. So in HTTP, there is no encryption. It's not secure communication. Anybody or any hacker, for that matter, will be able to read what communication is happening. But if you're using HTTPS, then that communication is secure. Therefore, it's always recommended that whenever you're using banking services or any financial services, you should always ensure that it is written HTTPS. Everyone, were we able to understand?
Sir, this DNS server works on IP address only.
Domain name system is for the purpose of identification.
Okay.
Just DNS is for the purpose of identification of location of any computer resource on the internet or World Wide Web. DNS, the DNS का पर्पस ही यही डीएनएस का पर्पस ही यही है कि वो आपको हेल्प करता है कि पूरे इंटरनेट में या वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब में कोई रिसोर्स कहाँ स्टोर्ड है और उसको जाके रिक्वेस्ट सेंड करना एंड बेस्ड ऑन योर रिक्वेस्ट दैट वेब पेज इज सेंट ऑन योर कंप्यूटर एंड डिस्प्लेड ऑन योर वेब ब्राउजर. ओके,
तो सर डीएनएस हमारा पैकेट स्विचिंग टेक्निक यूज कर सकता है ना, और तो कोई नहीं?
नहीं, आप कंफ्यूज ना करें. पैकेट स्विचिंग टेक्निक, ये आप पहले तो ये समझना पड़ेगा आप किस रेफरेंस में बोल रहे हैं. ठीक है, और पैकेट स्विचिंग का यहाँ पे कोई रेलेवेंस नहीं है. ये कैसे काम करता है, इट्स ब्रॉडली अ क्वेरी. ठीक है, अब क्या है, जैसे हमने यहाँ पे बात की डीएनएस के बारे में, तो यहाँ पे हमने कहा कि हर कंप्यूटर रिसोर्स, आपके कंप्यूटर का, मेरे कंप्यूटर का, आपके मोबाइल फोन का, हर जो सिस्टम आपका इंटरनेट से कनेक्टेड है, उसका एक यूनिक आईपी एड्रेस है. जैसे आपका आधार है, मेरा आधार है, तो ये आईपी एड्रेस के तौर पे आप समझ ले कि हर वो डिवाइस जो इंटरनेट पे कनेक्टेड होता है उसका एक आईपी एड्रेस होता है. ठीक है, बट क्या होता है, हमारे लिए उस आईपी एड्रेस को याद रखना डिफिकल्ट है. तो उस आईपी एड्रेस को, जैसे हमें क्या है, दुनिया में लाखों करोड़ों वेबसाइट्स हैं, अब हर वेबसाइट का आईपी एड्रेस याद रखना डिफिकल्ट है. तो हमने क्या किया, हमने एक सिस्टम डिवाइस किया जिसमें हमने कहा कि मुझे नंबर नहीं याद रखने, बट मैं क्या है, मैं नाम याद रखूंगा. वो नाम क्या है, जैसे एग्जाम्पल हो गया www.nls.ac.in. बट कंप्यूटर क्या है, कंप्यूटर ये www.nls.ac.in नहीं समझता. वो क्या समझता है, वो आईपी एड्रेस समझता है. तो उसके लिए हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा, पहले आईपी एड्रेस खोजना पड़ेगा. वो आईपी एड्रेस कैसे खोजेंगे, तो एक सिस्टम हमने डिवाइस किया जो डीएनएस सर्वर है, डोमेन नेम सिस्टम सर्वर, जिसमें ये इंफॉर्मेशन हमने www.nls.ac.in इंफॉर्मेशन भेजा डीएनएस पे, और हमने कहा कि आप, वेब ब्राउजर ने कहा कि आप हमें इस वेबसाइट का आईपी एड्रेस भेजिए. फिर डीएनएस सर्वर ने वो आईपी एड्रेस आपके वेब ब्राउजर को भेजा. तो वेब ब्राउजर ने क्या किया, आपका वो आईपी एड्रेस को आपका वेब सर्वर या वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब पे भेजा और रिक्वेस्ट किया कि इस एड्रेस पे जो भी वेब पेज है आप वो मुझे भेज दें, और वो वेब पेज आके आपके वेब ब्राउजर में खुल जाता है. बात समझ में आई? यहाँ पे आप पैकेट स्विचिंग से कंफ्यूज ना करें. डीएनएस का कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट पर्पस है.
ओके सर.
ओके, सो डीएनएस में सिर्फ आपको हेल्प करता है आपका वेबसाइट का नाम से आपके आईपी एड्रेस को रिलेट करने के लिए. एवरीवन, एंड वर वी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड हाइपरटेक्स्ट ट्रांसफर प्रोटोकॉल सिक्योर? कि जब हमने सिक्योर टर्म यूज किया तो वो HTTPS हाइपरटेक्स्ट ट्रांसफर प्रोटोकॉल सिक्योर. सिक्योर मींस जो भी कम्युनिकेशन होगा यहाँ पे आपका सर्वर के साथ, वो सिक्योर होगा। सिक्योर कैसे होगा? वो इनक्रिप्ट हो जाएगा, इनक्रिप्टेड कम्युनिकेशन होगी। प्लेन टेक्स्ट में कम्युनिकेशन नहीं होगी, साइफर टेक्स्ट में कम्युनिकेशन होगी। तो आपके कंप्यूटर पे इनक्रिप्ट होगा, सर्वर पे जाके डिक्रिप्ट होगा, और आपकी जो रिक्वेस्ट होगी वो सर्वर उसको फुलफिल करेगा। क्लाइंट सर्वर आर्किटेक्चर, प्लेन एंड सिंपल। जिन्होंने ये सवाल पूछा था HTTPS वाला, उनको समझ में आया?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है ना? सो वेरी क्विकली हम यहाँ पे ये समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि ये डोमेन नेम क्या है। वेरी क्विकली, ये पूरा जो एड्रेस है ना, यहां से यहां तक, ये है आपका URL। ठीक, ये पहला हो गया प्रोटोकॉल, हाइपर टेक्स्ट ट्रांसफर प्रोटोकॉल सिक्योर। ठीक है, किस टाइप का ट्रांसफर प्रोटोकॉल हम यूज कर रहे हैं। ये हो गया सब डोमेन, दिस इज ऑल्सो योर सोर्स। क्या होता है आजकल वेबसाइट्स क्या है ना, काफी सारे प्राइवेट सर्वर्स आ गए। ठीक है, तो क्या होता है, सारी वेबसाइट्स आपको वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब पे नहीं मिलेंगी। कई वेबसाइट्स के नाम जो है आपका www से शुरू नहीं होता है। उसका मतलब क्या है, ये वेबसाइट जो है आपका वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब पे स्टोर नहीं है, बट किसी प्राइवेट सर्वर पे स्टोर है। समझ पा रहे हैं आप? सो आप कई बार नोटिस करेंगे कि कई वेबसाइट्स का नाम www से शुरू नहीं होता। तो उसका क्या मतलब होता है? उसका मतलब है कि वो वेबसाइट आपका वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब पे नहीं है, किसी प्राइवेट सर्वर पे होस्टेड है। ठीक है, उसके बाद ये जो आपका नाम रहता है, ठीक है, ये है डोमेन नेम। ठीक है, ये डोमेन नेम जैसे मैंने कहा nls.ac.in। सो nls.ac.in, www.nls.ac.in, एग्जाम्पल ही देख लेते हैं वेरी क्विकली। आई होप सबको ये देख पा रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये HTTPS क्या हो गया, हमारा प्रोटोकॉल हो गया कि हमारा सिक्योर कम्युनिकेशन होगा कि अनसिक्योर कम्युनिकेशन होगा। www हमारा सब डोमेन है या लोकल डोमेन है, कि एक्चुअली कहाँ पे ये वेब पेज स्टोर्ड कहाँ पे है। ठीक है, ये AC.in बेसिकली क्या है, टॉप लेवल डोमेन है। टॉप लेवल डोमेन हमें ये बताता है कि बेसिकली किस तरीके की वेबसाइट है। तो जैसे आपका एग्जांपल है google.com, सो .com स्टैंड्स फॉर कमर्शियल वेबसाइट। ठीक है, तो वो कमर्शियल वेबसाइट है। .ac.in ये क्या है, ये एकेडमिक वेबसाइट है। .edu.in ये क्या है, ये भी एकेडमिक वेबसाइट है या एजुकेशनल वेबसाइट है। ठीक है, NLS क्या है, सो दिस इज द डोमेन, एक्चुअल डोमेन है। सो ये टॉप लेवल डोमेन नेम है, ये सेकेंडरी डोमेन नेम है। सो nls.ac.in ये पूरा आपका डोमेन नेम है। ये वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब आपका लोकल डोमेन है या सोर्स डोमेन है, जो आपको ये बताता है कि आपकी वेबसाइट कहाँ स्टोर्ड है। HTTPS ये बताता है आपका प्रोटोकॉल कौन सा है। ठीक है, अब एक वेबसाइट में कई मल्टीपल वेब पेजेस होते हैं। तो वेबसाइट इज व्हाट, वेबसाइट इज अ कलेक्शन ऑफ वेब पेजेस। अब हमें स्पेसिफिकली किस वेब पेज पे जाना है, वो कैसे पता चलेगा? एब्सोल्यूट पाथ से। बट ये पूरा मिला के क्या है, ये पूरा मिला के है URL। हम लोग समझ पा रहे हैं एवरीवन? एनी क्वेरीज हियर? बस यही है उसमें, ये पूरा जो है ये URL है एक स्पेसिफिक वेब पेज का। जैसे मेरे रूम का एड्रेस, तो ये होगा ना मेरे घर में, यू नो, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में जो रूम है वो मेरा room। तो उसी तरीके से अगर मुझे प्रोग्राम PhD इन लॉ सर्च करना है एनलेस की वेबसाइट पे, तो ये पूरा URL है। ठीक है, उसमें HTTPS प्रोटोकॉल है, आपका वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब लोकल डोमेन है या होस्ट डोमेन है, जो आपको बताता है कि आपकी वेबसाइट कहाँ होस्ट हुई है। फिर आपका nls.ac.in ये आपका पूरा डोमेन नेम है, जिसमें टॉप लेवल डोमेन नेम ac.in है, जो ये बताता है किस तरीके की वेबसाइट है। NLS एक्चुअल नेम हो गया। ठीक है, और ये आपका एब्सोल्यूट पाथ हो गया कि एक्चुअली आपकी वेबसाइट है कहाँ। एवरीवन, I hope we are able to understand, and we have also seen how DNS works. डोमेन नेम और URL के बीच में भी हमने डिफरेंस समझ लिया कि NLS डोमेन नेम है, AC.in आपका टॉप लेवल डोमेन नेम है। सो ये टुगेदर इज व्हाट इज योर कंप्लीट डोमेन नेम। www इज सब डोमेन, और योर होस्ट डोमेन प्रोटोकॉल, और ये पूरा पाथवे है एग्जैक्टली कौन से वेब पेज हमें एक्सेस करना। ओके एवरीवन, I hope everyone was able to appreciate. Now, very quickly, एक important case laws है relating to domain name. So Satyam Infoway versus Sifi Solutions 2004. ये बहुत ही important judgment है from the perspective of whether domain name can be treated as trademark. So in this, very clearly the court has held, the Supreme Court has held that domain name are no more address for computers on internet, but they have become a means for communicating the mode of carrying commercial activity, and these domain name may be considered as service marks under section 21Z, which refers to marks. Definition of mark. Okay. So domain name may be considered as a mark. So domain name is no more, the domain name is no more merely address for a computer resource on the internet, but it has now also acted as uh, you know trademark. Everyone, so this was something which was held in Satyam Infoway versus Sifinet. Very quickly, we'll talk about surface link, deep link, and framing. And broadly, we'll after. So there are different. URL is what? It's a link. Now, whenever you go to any website, like we have seen, so when you are on the home page, right? So you are in the home page of the website. So the URL or the link of the home page is what we understand as surface link. Okay. The link or the URL of the home page is what we understand as surface link. Whereas the internal pages of a website, if like we have seen the PhD, right? We have seen program PhD. So what is this? This is a deep link because this is an address for a specific web page, right? So if it is home page, the URL of home page is surface link and URL of internal pages of website is deep link. Now, this becomes very, very important from the perspective of commercial aspect because most of the websites, they earn revenues through advertisements. And then advertisements are based on the number of clicks these websites get for their homepage. So the more number of clicks these websites they get for their homepage, the more chances are that different companies will put advertisements on their website, right? So if somebody uses the deep link of your website, then broadly what it is doing, it is reducing the number of clicks on your homepage and therefore in turn also reducing the chances for your website to get more number of advertisement. So therefore use of deep link for commercial interest without the approval of the website owner would can amount to copyright infringement, right? Can amount to copyright infringement. Now, for this purpose, we also have a judgment in form of PVR Limited versus Just Dial Limited, where it's very clear. The court, Delhi High Court, held that the use of deep links without the consent amounts to copyright and trademark infringement, right? So nobody should be permitted to use deep links without the consent, right? And that has been clearly held up in PVR versus Just Dial. I'll encourage everyone to download this judgment and read. Now, computer programming language and computer program. So broadly,
Excuse me,
very
sir.
quick. Yes, yes,
So sometimes it's written .org and .net.
correct, correct.
So what's the meaning of those words?
Right. So when we talk about .org, it means organization. So initially, when domain name system was developed in 1983, there were 6 original domains, as you are able to see. .edu for educational, .gov for government, .com for commerce, .mil for military, .org is for organization, .net is for network, .int is for international. Okay. So these were the 6 original domain names, domains which were created. There were various others. Now these could be generic domain names or they could be country specific domain names, right? Like I talked about endless.ac.in. So what we are able to see, AC, academic institution, .in means an, Indian institution. Are we able to understand? the
Yes,
जिन्होंने
sir.
सवाल पूछा था उनको समझ में आया?
Yes,
जी,
sir.
fine, fine. Yes, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Now, evolution of computer programming language. So broadly, what is computer programming languages are not very relevant for us, but what basically why we are referring computer programming language for the reason being because computer programming language help us develop something what we call as computer programs, right? Computer programming language is broadly what we talk broadly help us develop computer programs. Now, the software which we generally talk about are nothing but computer programs. What is software? Software is nothing but computer programs. However, there is one problem that computer programs which humans write in English language is not comprehensible by computers because computer understand only one language. What is that language called? It is called machine language. What is this machine language? Machine language is nothing but combination of ones and zeros. So what you are able to see here is machine language. What you are able to see here is a computer programs written in English language or you written using different computer programming language. So this is written in C language. C programming language, this code is written. But when we convert it into machine language in form of zeros and one, this is how it would look. Whether computer understands this, the answer is no. Whether computer understands machine language, the answer is yes. Okay. So every computer program,
Sir,
every computer, yes,
computer
yes,
transfer the language into machine language, or we have to
no,
do.
no, yes, yes. मैं आपका सवाल समझ गया. So computer does not convert this, English computer programming language, computer program into machine language. But for this conversion, we have software which we call as compiler. What is it called? Compiler. So compiler is nothing but a software which is used for converting your computer program, which is broadly written in human comprehensible language into simple machine language. So computer automatically does not do it. It is done with the help of software. What is that software called? So it is called compiler. Did I respond to your query? So machine does not do it automatically. There are software which converts this into this. Everyone? जिन्होंने सवाल पूछा था आंसर मिल गया?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now the big question is ये इंग्लिश रिटन कंप्यूटर प्रोग्राम होता है उसे टेक्निकली सोर्स कोड बोला जाता है और जो ये मशीन लैंग्वेज होता है उसको ऑब्जेक्ट कोड बोला जाता है. One more time. So this English written computer program, which is written using different programming language, which in the present case is C programming language. This computer program is called source code. And once it's converted or converted into machine language using compiler into zeros and ones, it is called object code. Now the big question is, what do we protect under copyright as a computer program or software? Whether we protect the source code or we protect the object code, the answer to this is we protect both. So the computer program which has been defined under section 2 FFC of the Copyright Act, it defines computer program to mean set of instruction expressed in words, codes, schemes, or any other form, including machine readable medium, which is basically your machine language. So the copyright protection in computer programs is given to both source code as well as object code, and computer programs are protected as literary work. We have talked about in copyright literary, artistic, dramatic, and musical work. I hope everyone remembers. So that's computer program for us. I hope everyone is able to understand. Um, Now, are there any cases? So yes, there are a couple of cases. Let's quickly refer to them. So the first case is Saeed Asufuddin case. We are again referring to it. So in that case, we have referred the computer program, that is software, is an original literary work protected under Copyrights Act. We have just referred to the provisions of the Copyright Act, and the judgment in Saeed Asafuddin has also clarified that. Similarly, in Autodesk versus Prashant Deshmukh, it has been declared by Delhi High Court that pirated software amounts to copyright infringement under Section 51 of the Copyrights Act. So we have already talked about Section 51 of Copyright Act. What does it talk about? It is copyright infringement. So whether the softwares or the computer programs, so computer programs and softwares can be interchangeably used, but software is more computer program is a broader concept than a software. So software is a subset of computer programs. So just to give you a simple example, this bigger circle is computer program. Software is a type of computer program, because software is not just one computer program, but it's a package of computer programs put in together. So different programs perform different functions in a software. I hope we are able to understand. There are too many things related with these. However, considering the time, I would not rush into artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. But I can assure you that you would not miss on anything, because we will again come back on 22nd, when we will be talking about case studies, right? We will refer to artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies. We'll again come back and we'll look into it. So you would not miss out on it. Whatever we are not covering with respect to artificial intelligence and blockchain technology, we will come back on 22nd, when we will be talking about case studies and application. All those issues which we began with today, we will refer them and we'll complete. I hope all of you were able to appreciate and understand the discussion. Uh, I think that should be it from me, but I'm open to any query anyone would have. Yes, I hope I'm audible. I hope I'm audible. Anyone there?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes. Anyone having any query?
Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
Sir, I want to ask you one question. Sir, that in cases of that मेरे को ये पूछना था सर कि जैसे हम रॉयल्टी पे करते हैं
ठीक है
तो सर रॉयल्टी ना मुझे उसमें कंफ्यूजन है कि हम रॉयल्टी जो ओनर है या ऑथर है उसको पे करते हैं या थर्ड पार्टी को पे करते हैं
ठीक है बहुत अच्छा सवाल है आपका। पहले तो मैं ये बताना चाहूंगा कि रॉयल्टी हम यहाँ पे कॉपीराइट के पर्सपेक्टिव में बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
वृद्धि, करेक्ट?
Yes, sir.
तो कॉपीराइट के पर्सपेक्टिव में जब हम रॉयल्टी की बात कर रहे हैं, तो सपोज मैंने एक किताब लिखी है, ठीक है? सो सपोज एक हाइपोथेटिकल सिनेरियो लेते हैं कि वृद्धि ने किताब लिखी है और मैं पब्लिशर, ठीक है? मैंने वृद्धि को कहा कि वृद्धि ने आईपी इन साइबर स्पेस में एक किताब लिखी है और मैं पब्लिशर हूं, उन्होंने किताब लिखी, मैंने पब्लिश कर दी। अब यहाँ पे 32 लोग हैं और 32 लोगों ने वो किताब खरीदी। अब उस किताब को पब्लिश करने में मेरा खर्चा आया 150 रुपए। मैंने किताब बेची है 500 रुपए में, ठीक है? तो एज अ पब्लिशर मैंने कितना कमाया? मैंने 350 रुपए कमाए हर किताब पे। अब 350, और वो मैंने किताब ईज ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए मैं उसको 100 किताबें मैंने बेची, हर किताब पे मैंने 350 रुपए कमाए। तो टोटल मेरी इनकम हुई एज अ पब्लिशर 32,500, सॉरी 35,000। मेरी प्रॉफिट हुई 35,000, क्योंकि 350 रुपीज पर बुक आई अर्न एज अ पब्लिशर, बिकॉज मेरा एक्चुअल खर्चा कितना था? 150 and book sold for 500, so 350 rupees per book I have earned. Okay, I have sold 100 books, so how much I have earned? I have earned 35,000 rupees. Now usually standard rate बता रहा हूं कि एक ऑथर gets anywhere between 10% to 25% of sales as royalty. Now the whole idea is, what Vriddhi will get after I have sold 100 books is 3,500 rupees. What you will get in form of royalty is 3,500 rupees. So जब कोई व्यक्ति किताब खरीदता है तो वो रॉयल्टी नहीं देता है, वो किताब की कॉस्ट देता है, ठीक है, जिसमें पब्लिशर का प्रॉफिट भी इन्वॉल्व है। ओके, ऑथर जो होता है उसको रॉयल्टी कौन देता है? उसको रॉयल्टी पब्लिशर देता है। वृद्धि, बात समझे अपन?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
है ना? So basically you are not paying royalty if you're purchasing any book. If you're purchasing my book, so you are not paying the cost of that book to me, you're giving it to the publisher. Now I will get my royalty from the publisher depending on the agreement the lawyer and the publisher and I have, and that could vary between 10 to 25%. So you'll be surprised, royalty is not very high. You know, even the best of authors are maximum getting 25%. But they're getting from publisher, not from the buyer. That's something I wanted to clarify. Yes. Any other query? Anyone? आई होप वो जो एग्जाम्पल हमने डिस्कस किया वो सबको समझ में आया होगा। जितना रियल लाइफ एग्जाम्पल होता है उतना समझने में आसानी होती है। इफ देर आर नो मोर क्वेश्चंस, यस, एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? एनीवन? किन्होंने हाथ खड़ा किया? पूछे सवाल,
सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था।
बताइए।
सर ब्रांड नेम्स जो होते हैं बेसिकली जो वेबसाइट्स पे होते हैं अपने पर्टिकुलर, वो कौन से इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी के टाइप में आएंगे?
ट्रेडमार्क।
ट्रेडमार्क में सर लोगोस तो चलो आ गए, बट ब्रांड
ठीक है,
नेम्स कैसे आएंगे?
बहुत अच्छा सवाल है। तो इसके लिए हम क्या करेंगे, मैं फिर से स्क्रीन शेयर करूंगा और हम ट्रेडमार्क का बेयर एक्ट देखेंगे। क्योंकि क्या होता है, जब तक चीजें हम आंख से ना देखें ना, हमें समझ में नहीं आता है। तो मैंने शेयर किया स्क्रीन, आप ये कंफर्म करिएगा कि आप मेरी स्क्रीन देख पा रही है कि नहीं। खुशी,
यस सर, आई एम एबल टू सी।
मेरा वेब ब्राउजर देख पा रही है आप?
यस सर।
चलिए, तो अब हम क्या करेंगे, सबसे पहले हम बेयर एक्ट में गए और किसी भी चीज को कोई भी व्यक्ति कुछ भी बोले हमें नहीं मानना चाहिए, सीधे हमें बेयर एक्ट खोलना चाहिए और उसकी डेफिनेशन देखनी चाहिए कि डेफिनेशन क्या है। तो हमें क्या है, मार्क की डेफिनेशन देखनी है। एक मिनट, यहां सेक्शन 2M देख पा रही हैं आप? यहां पे मैं सेक्शन 2M मैंने हाईलाइट
यस
किया,
सर।
मार्क। नाउ मार्क क्या क्या इंक्लूड करता है? डिवाइस, ब्रांड, हेडिंग्स, लेबल्स, टिकट्स, नेम, सिग्नेचर, वर्ड, लेटर, न्यूमेरिकल, शेप ऑफ गुड्स, पैकेजिंग और कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ कलर और एनी कॉम्बिनेशन देयर ऑफ। ठीक है, तो आप ये ना सोचे कि आपका नाम ट्रेडमार्क नहीं हो सकता। आप मेरा स्क्रीन देख पा रही थी ना?
ओके सर, ओके सर, थैंक यू।
तो आप चाहें तो अपना नाम भी रजिस्टर करा सकती हैं ट्रेडमार्क के तौर पे।
ओके सर।
ठीक है खुशी?
यस सर, थैंक यू।
नो प्रॉब्लम बेटा। और
सर,
कोई सवाल? जी बताइए।
सर फॉर एग्जांपल लेस की कंपनी है जो चिप्स बनाती है,
ठीक है,
सो सर वो एक पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ पोटैटो यूज करते हैं जिसमें वाटर क्वांटिटी बहुत लेस होती है ताकि पोटैटो जो चिप्स बने वो क्रिस्प हो सके।
बिल्कुल
तो सर वो क्या उस पोटैटो की वैरायटी को भी पेटेंट करवा सकते हैं?
बिल्कुल करवा सकते हैं अगर वो यूनिक है तो। एंड देखो, कोई भी इसमें, चलो आपने बहुत अच्छा सवाल पूछा, आपके लिए भी हम ऐसा करेंगे, स्क्रीन शेयर करेंगे और जस्ट गिव मी अ मोमेंट। और बेटा आपका नाम क्या हुआ?
सर सिद्धांत।
सिद्धांत, आप देख पा रहे हैं मैंने एक स्क्रीन शो किया हुआ है?
Yes, sir.
यस सर।
It's visible to
वेरी
all.
गुड। ठीक है, यहाँ पे पेटेंट्स एक्ट है ये बेसिकली जो आप देख पा रहे हैं। पेटेंट्स एक्ट में सेक्शन 3 है, ठीक है, उसमें लिखा हुआ है व्हाट आर नॉट इन्वेंशंस। ठीक है, सो देर आर सर्टेन सेट ऑफ थिंग्स जो हमने डिसाइड किया हुआ है कि हम उसे इन्वेंशन नहीं मानेंगे। तो उसका मतलब क्या होगा अगर कोई चीज इन्वेंशन है ही नहीं तो उस पे पेटेंट प्रोटेक्शन मिल ही नहीं सकता। ठीक है, तो सेक्शन 3 इस मामले में बहुत क्लियर है। तो इसमें ये क्या कहता है कि अ मेथड ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर और हॉर्टिकल्चर मेथड will not be considered as patentable. A living plant or an animal in whole or any part thereof will not be considered as, what should I say, your invention or patentable. ठीक है, तो ये आप उस तरीके से समझे कि कोई भी नेचुरली एग्जिस्टिंग चीज जो है, ठीक है, तो उस पोटैटो के सीड को बनाने का प्रोसेस अगर आपका आर्टिफिशियल है, जो नेचुरली एग्जिस्टिंग नहीं है, तो उसको आप पेटेंट करा सकते हैं। बट एज सच नेचुरली एग्जिस्टिंग चीज को आप पेटेंट नहीं करा सकते। बात समझे हम?
यस सर।
और हम कैसे डिटरमाइन करेंगे कि कोई चीज इन्वेंशन है कि नहीं है? तो हम एक्ट खोलेंगे, सेक्शन 3 में जाएंगे और देखेंगे कि जिस चीज को हम प्रोटेक्ट करना चाह रहे हैं वो एक्चुअली इन्वेंशन है कि नहीं पेटेंट के पर्पज से।
सर बट यहाँ पे ये जो क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं कि
जी
लेस कंपनी, तो
जी
अगर वो सीड्स आर्टिफिशियल भी बना है तो
जी
लेस कंपनी तो नहीं करा सकती है ना, अनटिल एंड अनलेस पतंजलि की तरह सीड्स भी वही बना रहे हैं और दूध भी वही बना रहे हैं और सेल भी वही कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि पतंजलि के जो प्रोडक्ट्स होते हैं इन हाउस ही होते हैं। तो
नहीं
इफ
मैडम,
दे आर, या
जी आप सवाल पूछ लें पूरा।
हाँ, तो वो तो खुद ही बनाते हैं और खुद ही उसको सेल करते हैं, तो वहां पे वो पेटेंट करा सकते हैं। लेस तो तब कराएगा ना जब उन्होंने आलू के सीड बनाए, आलू को उधर ग्रो करा एंड
जी
देन सेल करा, तभी वो उनका पेटेंट कराएंगे ना सर।
नहीं मैडम,
अगर
मैं
वो
तो यहाँ
फार्म
पे,
कर रहे हैं तो वो तो जो जो फार्मर है वो कराएगा ना,
जी तो
है ना
इसमें
सर।
यूजुअली क्या, जी मैडम आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रही है। मैं आपको आपको एक, एक्चुअली मैं आपको ये बताऊंगा कि एक नया कंसेप्ट रिसेंट टाइम में डेवलप हुआ है और उसे हम लोग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग कहते हैं। ठीक है, तो ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग क्या है कि फार्मिंग अब कमर्शलाइज हो गया है। तो पहले क्या होता था कि आप एज अ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फार्मर के पास जाते थे और बोलते थे आप मुझे आलू दे दो, आप मुझे टमाटर दे दो, या आपको जो भी चाहिए। बट आज की डेट में वैसा नहीं होता मैडम। अब क्या होता है, ये कंपनीज, चाहे आप पेप्सी देख ले, चाहे आप मैकडोनल्ड्स देख ले, चाहे आप केएफसी देख ले, ये लोग क्या करते हैं कि सीड भी यही देते हैं, खाद भी यही देते हैं, और एक स्पेसिफिक प्रोसीजर बताते हैं कि आप जो पेड़ है उसको ऐसे उगाएं। और इस सब के लिए एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन होता है कंपनी और फार्मर के बीच में, और इस प्रोसीजर को कहा जाता है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग। और इस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट फार्मिंग में मैंडेटरी होता है कि जितना भी प्रोड्यूस है, चाहे वो अच्छा हो चाहे वो खराब हो, वो पूरा का पूरा उस फार्मर को, उस कंपनी को ही बेचना पड़ेगा एट द फिक्स्ड रेट। तो अब क्या करती है कंपनीज, क्योंकि एक स्टैंडर्ड मेंटेन करना है, क्वालिटी मेंटेन करना है, तो वो फार्मर का फ्रीडम नहीं रहा है कि वो कोई से भी बीज या कोई से भी आलू यूज कर सकता है। अब क्या है, कंपनीज क्या है, स्पेसिफिकली आपको स्पेसिफिक सीड देंगी और आपको वही यूज करना है। आई होप मैडम आप समझ पाई मेरी बात।
यस सर, डेफिनेटली। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
एब्सोल्युटली मैडम। और जहां तक बच्चे ने सवाल पूछा था, तो नेचुरली एग्जिस्टिंग जो पोटैटो है वो आपका पेटेंट नहीं हो सकता। बट अगर जेनेटिकली मॉडिफाइड पोटैटो, जीएम, जेनेटिकली मॉडिफाइड पोटैटो है, जैसे हमने बीटी ब्रिंजल, बीटी कॉटन, ये सब नाम सुने होंगे, तो ये सब क्या थे, ये नेचुरली एग्जिस्टिंग नहीं है बट इनको पेटेंट किया था, ये पेटेंटेड है। बीटी ब्रिंजल, बीटी आपके कॉटन एंड सो ऑन। तो उस तरीके से अगर आपके जेनेटिकली मॉडिफाइड आपके ये पोटैटो होगा तो आपको पेटेंट जरूर मिल सकता है। बट अगर वो नेचुरली एग्जिस्टिंग है या कोई एक डिस्कवरी है, अ मियर न्यू फॉर्म ऑफ डिस्कवरी है, डिस्कवरी उसी चीज की होता है जो नेचुरली एग्जिस्टिंग होता है, तो उस पे आपको पेटेंट नहीं मिलेगा।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
जी, और किसी बच्चे का कोई सवाल? आई आई होप हमने आज थोड़ा बहुत ही कुछ सीखा हो। देखिए, जो कुछ भी सीखा वो आधी कहानी है। हमने जो नोट्स बनाए होंगे, जो कीवर्ड्स लिखे होंगे, हमें घर जाके उनको और डिटेल में पढ़ना होगा। उन उन और खुद पढ़ के जो डाउट्स होंगे वो कल फिर आके पूछने होंगे। जो और रिसोर्स पर्सन आएंगे, या 2 दिन बाद जब मैं फिर से आपको मिलूंगा, आप जो सवाल चाहें वो जरूर पूछ सकते हैं मुझसे। तो इसी के साथ आज का सेशन खत्म करें।
Yes, sir. Divyansh, please conclude the session.
Good evening, sir. Tonight's exploration of cyberspace and intellectual property right law, led by Mr. Abhinav Gupta, sir, has been nothing short of revelatory. Thank you to our speaker for shedding light on the intersection of cyberspace and IP law. In today's digital age, as every one of you knows, cyberspace has become a vital arena for commerce, communication, and creativity, presenting both opportunities and challenges for intellectual property right law. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, sir, for enlightening us with your profound knowledge and for guiding us through the complexities of digital law. And to our audience, your engagement and curiosity are what makes this session truly enriching. At once, I have a final vote of thanks to you, sir, for enlightening us with the profound knowledge
Thank you.
this course, that is cyberspace and intellectual property right law. We eagerly anticipate your participation in our next session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank Dr. Shweta for
Thank you,
giving
sir.
this
Thank you very
opportunity.
much. Da-
जी जी मैडम, आपका।
It's a very knowledgeable session for us, and definitely our students benefited from all the knowledge and question answers they asked during the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And once again, very thank you to all the participants. और जितने सवाल आप पूछेंगे उतना आप सीखेंगे, और जिस तरीके से चाहेंगे वैसी डिलीवरी होगी। थैंक यू सो वेरी मच। फिर मिलेंगे 2 दिन बाद। थैंक यू।
Okay. Thank you, sir. Good night.
गुड नाइट।